Hello, everyone, and welcome along to the VCO Studio show hosted by me, Ben Constanduros. Here at VCO, we are passionate about merging the world of real and virtual esports racing, something I'm also passionate about, and that's why tonight we have a guy representing everything we believe in. We've spoken to esports champions, real world champions, organizers, and tonight we have a man who is both a real world champion and a virtual world champion, Bruno Spengler. This is going to be quite an interview. I've got a dodgy internet connection, and it looks like you're driving home. Welcome. No, I don't have any sound from Bruno either. So not quite sure what's going on there. No. Okay, well, for the moment, we'll try and get that sorted in a second. But for the moment, there's no sound coming from Bruno Spengler. Just a quick note then about what happened this last weekend. The iRacing 24 Hours of Le Mans had something like 10,000 drivers. Unbelievable amount of people taking part. And just amazing to see something like 2,400 teams also taking part. So that was an incredible mass event, something like 28 different splits, and all thanks to VCO and the broadcast partners, including RSL Studio. So amazing event. Top Split was very interesting to watch, but it wasn't necessarily about the celebrities like other events were the weekend before. It was more about that mass participation. And for those of you who didn't manage to get in due to server issues, including one of the VCO BS competition teams, that's such a shame. But we will try and get Bruno back on the line in a few moments' time, and hopefully we'll be able to hear from him. Just waiting for his connection. So in race week one, we spoke to Josh Rogers, an esports world champion. We then moved over to Nicky Katzberg, a real world champion. Week three, we managed to chat to Dom Doohan, who is the kind of team boss of Team Redline, but also helps out with R Factor 2 as well as the Chief Development Officer. Jimmy Broadbent, an influencer. And now, hopefully, we can hear from Bruno. Bruno, are you there? Yeah, this isn't working this evening. This is a shame. So Bruno's now disconnected, and I knew it was going to be a little tricky when I saw that he was in his car. But I'm surprised at how good my picture is, considering where I am. I'll just sit up a little bit so you can see my logo. Got a T-shirt. Yay! Hi, Bruno. How's it going?
I'm good, man. I'm very sorry. I couldn't hear anything before, so
I bigged you up massively, and then said it was going to be a bit dodgy because you're in the car and I've got dodgy internet. I think we're both in France, so we blame France. But all good now. So you are getting ready for the real world again?
yes, I am getting ready for the real world. And first of all, I'm sorry for not being able to connect correctly. I was just out with my dad for the Father's Day, as he was not there yesterday, so we kind of picked it up tonight and went out to the restaurant. So sorry for the messy connection. And yeah, I'm definitely ready. I mean, it's coming up like in a week, a bit more than a week. I'm flying to the US for Daytona, the first race. And I'm really looking forward to see the team, to see everyone there. But for sure, I didn't have a boring time, let's say, during the confinement because of all the sim racing. I really loved it. I really enjoyed it. It was great for me. It was a great experience. And I'm going to try to carry on with sim racing as much as I can, even when the real season goes on again.
So let's kind of break everything back and take it back to the very beginning. You getting into real motorsport, there was no sim racing involved at that time, was there?
No, not as much as now. I mean, when I got into motorsport, I can remember the games I had the first PlayStation. I was driving go-karts and I was racing on Formula One. I think the name was I was racing on Grand Prix first. It was on PC. I had Grand Prix 1, Grand Prix 2, Grand Prix 3, and Grand Prix 4. But it was nowhere near to what we have now. For the time, it was great, but it was nowhere near to what we have now. And
did you have a steering wheel?
I had a steering wheel. Yes, I had a
Nice.
steering wheel and pedals on my just installed on a table. Like yeah, just not a sim or anything. And then I had Formula One '98, which was PlayStation. Yeah, this was for me sim racing at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. But in terms of actually competition online with others, this wasn't really on your radar until up to relatively recently.
No, definitely not as much as now. I mean, I started iRacing like a year ago, but I wasn't doing it much. I had a sim at home, but it wasn't the greatest. Let's say it was a good sim, but it wasn't good enough compared to what I have now. And I was just racing or training sometimes when I had time, and I wasn't really into it. Let's say.
Mm.
But then I had the contact to the BS competition guys and started to talk to them about sims and stuff and what could be good to have at home. And they really guide me into very good stuff. And at the end, I think it was at the end of January, beginning of February, they came to my house and installed a great sim. And then I started to be crazy about it. And my first race with it was the 12 Hours of Bathurst, which was in beginning of February, I guess. And then it all started there. And then the confinement came, and IMSA did their championship, and it was more and more races, DNLS and 24-hour Nürburgring, and I'm just loving it. It's great. It's I believe it's a tool that can make you a better driver.
Did you? Because obviously, I think the first time I saw you on a sim was at the Sim Racing Expo back in September of last year. So that was kind of before you had this great sim. Who and how did you get interested or get persuaded to be doing that kind of thing in the first place for BMW?
So I think first of all, I'm a very competitive person. And when I went to the Sim Expo, it was the first time really that I really competed against very, very good sim racers, like some of the best of the world. And I saw what's possible to do. For the first time, I was all right. I think I trained a bit on my sim at home, but it wasn't, as I said, it wasn't the greatest. So I still had a lot of stuff to learn. And when I got to the Sim Expo, I just saw what was possible. And I said to myself, as soon as I have more time, I want to update my sim. I want to improve. I want to train. And that's what happened then in January, February. And as I am a very competitive person, I cannot stop until I'm happy with my performance.
So did you feel like you kind of got addicted to just getting better and better and putting in those lap times to chip away at the times?
Definitely. I got totally addicted. Getting better and better, working on myself, getting compared to professional sim racers is fun because they always kind of show you the lap tricks and how to release the brake pedal, where to go on the power and stuff. I have so much to learn from them, which is, for me, it's cool because it's like a non-stop learning process. And I just love it. You wake up in the morning, you fancy a couple of laps in your sim, you go and you work on your driving and on your setup, and it's fun, and to be around guys like BS competition is just amazing because I can learn so much from them, and they are great to me.
And do you feel like that involvement from BS and BMW as well kind of pushed you and encouraged you to be faster and faster?
Definitely, because first of all, I find it great that a brand like BMW gets involved in sim racing as they do, because not everyone does that in that way. And I think sim racing has a great future. And I think a brand like BMW showing up in sim racing as they do is something amazing. And I'm a works driver for BMW, and it's great to have that part of my program, and also to have a team backing us up as like BS competition guys. The drivers like Kai, like Lauren, like Alex and Niels. They are so fast, and they're always pushing me, and they're always showing me that there is another limit behind, and that's, for me, that's great, and I learned so much. And I'm sure, the stuff I learned now during these 3 months, it's stuff I can take over for real racing.
Yeah, have you actually got set foot in a real race car since doing so much sim racing?
No. So I'm looking forward to next week. Let's see. But I'm not, let's say, I'm not afraid, or not afraid, but afraid is the wrong word. But I'm not expecting to be too surprised about the car, because I raced so much on sim racing, and sim racing is great to work on your concentration. So for sure, it's going to take me laps to get to the real car again. That's clear. But sim racing is such a great tool for your concentration. So I think my concentration after so much sim racing is sharper than before. And because my concentration is sharper, maybe I'm going to get used to the car quicker than before. So yeah, I'm looking forward to
So
it.
what do you feel like the difference is between a real world driver and a sim driver?
I think, sim racing is very different on one side, but on the other side, it's let's say pretty similar, because a racing line in a real car is very close to a racing line on sim racing. So that's already one point that's super close. The other thing for me, what's more difficult on sim racing than in real life, is that in sim racing you have no motion and you don't feel the G-force. So without the G-force, it's a lot more difficult to keep your focus over a long stint, over 2-hour stint, 2.5-hour stint. It's a lot more difficult to keep your focus, where in real racing, you always moved around, let's say, in the car, and you feel the car with your whole body. And it's kind of easier to stay focused for a long time in this, where in sim racing, you really need, the only feedback you have is your eyes, the steering wheel, and the pedals. And to keep your maximum focus is super difficult. And that's why I think sim racing is a great tool to work on your concentration.
So just going back, you mentioned the IMSA series. Obviously, you became the virtual IMSA champion. You must have been so stoked, not only to see that they announced the championship, but then to see BMW's involvement and really pushing you. And then basically, you were the class of the field for the whole championship.
Yeah, it was let's say it was a cool championship. I really loved it. First of all, I was very happy that IMSA organizes such a championship with all the drivers. I mean, we were like 45, 50 drivers.
Yeah.
From, let's say, from all the classes. So it was amazing. And it was a lot of emotions, because we started the championship at Sebring. They announced shortly after the race in Sebring was postponed that they were going to do a Sebring remake, let's say, on iRacing. And after that, they just said, okay, we're going to do a complete championship. And then, things got very serious. So I was very nervous before the races, before qualifyings, and it felt so real, So when I crossed start finish at the last race, and I heard I was champion, although the race didn't go too well. Let's say I got done at turn 1. My car was totally broken. I had to go in the pits for 2 minutes. It was a kind of a nightmare race, let's say. But when I crossed that finish and I heard I was champion, I was so happy. Just like in real, I told the guys at BS, I said, guys, it feels like my DTM championship. I'm super happy. A lot of emotions going through, and a big team behind us, and it was a team effort. So it was something very special.
So obviously you take the whole thing incredibly seriously, and it's never just a game. But do you ever sometimes go and have a bit of fun and just log on to a dirt oval or something and just enjoy yourself?
So yeah, I mean, there are days where dirt oval not, but there are days where I just go into, let's say, Skip Barber or Formula 3 or stuff like that. I just go and have some fun, and or we just go with a couple of friends and just go and race and just have some fun. Take a slow car and have some fun. But at the end, it's fun. But at the end, we want to win, even if it's just fun. So it turns into a competition always. Whatever we start, it always turns into a competition.
You've got to try the pro trucks that jump. That's dirt and jumping. It's pretty
crazy.
That. Yeah, that's really cool.
For sure.
And there's always some crazy people out there. So obviously you spoke about iRacing, and iRacing's been kind of the place where you've shown yourself and you've won not only.
Oh, you're back.
Hey, I'm back. That was weird. It's all going off this evening. So obviously, virtual champion IMSA, that was iRacing, and you've done some of the Nürburgring Nordschleife events as well. What a challenge that must be. But have you tried other platforms as well?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I did the DNLS, which is a great championship, but we're not over with it, and actually in contention for the championship as well with my super fast teammates Kai Schube and Niels Koch. But yeah, I tried. I did a bit of R Factor 2 with organized by The Race, which I did 2 podiums on it. But to be honest, I before starting the race, I never really raced on R Factor 2. So it's a bit difficult. When you come from iRacing, you go on to R Factor 2. There's a lot of stuff you have to adapt to. It's very different. And it's you are against, let's say, R Factor 2 specialists sometimes, and it gets difficult. So it was difficult to train for both. So I had to make a decision and say, I'm going to stay focused on the IMSA. I'm going to stay focused on iRacing, IMSA and DNLS. And this took quite a lot of my time, and there was no time over to train for R Factor 2. And I just kind of went to the races, did 1 or 2 hours training before the race. And I paid the bill for it after, because I had not really a chance there. I just did 2 podiums because it went well. But if you don't train in sim racing, you don't have a chance. People are so good there. I kind of had to make that choice. At some point, you have to make a decision whether you focus on one or focus on the other. And I kept the focus on iRacing and on the IMSA Championship.
And what kind of hours are you talking in terms of your training then?
Well, it depends. I mean, let's say on the IMSA Championship, for example, we had trainings the week of the race. All drivers, BMW drivers, which were sometimes 3 hours, non-stop, just training, doing qualifying runs, doing race runs, long runs. And 3 hours is a small number. Sometimes we did even more. So it's you need everybody who's in there and who is doing well in there is doing a lot of hours. So at the end, it's a lot about the hours you do, the concentration, the setup you build with your team. Again, we were so lucky that we had a great team behind us, like BS, to back us up with setup work and stuff. The pro sim guys. Without that, we would never be able to challenge, the championship. So that's also something that we have to mention, definitely. And it's a teamwork, and it's also personal work that you have to work on yourself. And it's not just, you go out and your driving style is fine. You have to adapt a little bit to each track, to how the tire degrade and stuff. So it's super fun and super realistic.
I love this idea of all of these professional drivers getting assistance from these professional sim drivers. We've already spoken to Josh Rogers, who helped Nick Tandy to his championship. Obviously, Nicky Katzberg, we spoke to a few weeks ago, who had assistance, much like you, from BS Competition. I just love that combination. And that's what VCO is all about. If you guys are wanting to ask questions to Bruno, we've got a few minutes left, and I know there are a couple of questions already sitting there. So let's go to... I don't know how you say your name. Hosu Al-Agua? Sorry if I've just butchered that. How does it feel to drive a BMW race car? That's pretty general.
Yeah, that's very general. A BMW race car feels amazing. I mean, first of all, BMW in general, not the race cars, but the road cars are cars that I really love, because these are cars that you can do a lot of stuff with. You can drive very easily, very relaxed, and bring people with you in a family. For example, have an X3 here. It's an X3. You have a lot of space, but it's got a 510 horsepower engine, so you can drive it very sporty. It's an X3M. You can drive it very sporty and very aggressive, but you can also drive it very easy with your family and relax. It's very comfortable when you need to have it comfortable. A race car at BMW, it's everything without the comfort. So let's say it's a car that's super aggressive. It's a car that's a lot of fun to drive. It's a car where you can challenge, championships. There's a lot of things that come with it. You develop racing cars. To develop racing cars with a manufacturer like BMW is a great challenge, and it's a lot of fun, and it makes you very proud as a driver.
And a relationship that you've had for so many years with BMW.
Yeah, since 2012.
Was that your first year with BMW and you won the championship?
Yeah, first year with BMW. BMW at the end of 2011, and we won a championship with the M3 in 2012. That was great.
That was a great first year. Very nice.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more just about sim racing and how you feel it might move forward, because as a professional driver, you've got other attentions now. You've got to go off and race in the real world. So do you still have a bit of your brain reserved for sim racing on weekends off, for instance, or will you now only be able to really do it proficiently on an off season?
So I think, for sure, I'm going to do everything I can, as I said before, to keep racing in sim racing within my within my time between the races. So I'll do everything I can. When I get home, I'll train on the sim. I'll try to be as consistent as possible on my training, fitting my time. Let's say I'm gonna be away a lot more than I was, so for sure it's gonna be more difficult. But I already told the BS guys, as soon as the real racing goes on, I want to keep on racing. I want to keep on. I want to keep on being on iRacing. I want to on improving myself, because I think this is a great tool to improve myself as a driver, and I want to keep on doing sim racing as much as possible, definitely.
I suppose as kind of now an ambassador for sim racing, as your success has kind of given you, you'll be encouraging organizations to do virtual championships perhaps in the winter.
Yeah, I think in the winter to do a sim championship would be something amazing for us drivers. I mean, they depends a bit on your racing plan during the winter, but as if there is time, for sure during the winter to do a sim racing championship with pro drivers, maybe a mix of pro drivers and pro sim drivers would be something amazing, because I think it's always interesting to mix, in a competition, pro drivers and pro sim racers. Because I mean, if pro sim racers are better than us, then it's up to us to work on ourselves to improve. So I think it's always cool to mix the two, because we can learn so much from the pro sim drivers, and that's why I would love it, definitely.
It's really cool to speak to you, Bruno. I know you've taken time out of your evening with your father, so
no worries.
really appreciated. And I think we'll be seeing each other in a few days, because you've got a competition to prove you're the best coming up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll see you in a few days, man.
All right, Bruno Spengler, thank you very much for joining us on the VCO chat show. Next week, I can tell you who we've got. We've got Sebastian Job, who is at the front running Red Bull Esports driver on the World Championship, which is the iRacing Porsche Super Cup. So make sure you join us 8 o'clock on Monday evenings. Thanks very much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.